Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Mullin It Over here on Heart of Ohio Sports. Nate Mullins live inside Studio Squared. Of course, we got Greg Kinn running the ones and twos, keeping us live. And today we have a special guest in studio, Mr. the one and only, the original voice of Seneca County, Jack Kagy. How's it going?
How you doing, Nate? Good, good. So this is what the inside of a podcast looks like. Is that right?
Well, we're inside of a podcast, yes.
Okay.
How do we get out? No.
I thought it was more cramped than this.
I'll get a little bit of room to breathe. Yeah, it's comfy in here. It's nice and cozy. So how's it going, man? What have you been up to lately?
Retired.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How's the retired life?
Oh, I love it. We've been doing some traveling around different parts of the state. Get up in Michigan once in a while, and at least during the summer.
Yeah?
Don't do that much this season, but and that's about it.
Not really into sports? Nothing sports related lately? Just kind of watching sports now?
Watching sports, yeah.
Yeah. I know you're a fan of us. I see you watch a lot of our broadcasts.
Yeah.
You're a fan of local sports, high school sports, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and also, wife and I watch the Guardians and the Cavs, who are playing right now, by the way.
Turn that on. What am I doing here?
And, of course, the Browns, depending on who else is playing. There's a few other teams we like to
So you're an
watch
all
and see.
Ohio guy.
Yeah.
I like
pretty
that.
much.
I like that. That's cool. I am as well. Ohio State, Buckeyes, Browns, Cavs, Blue Jackets, like you name it. You know, anything Cleveland, Ohio related, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll even root for the Bengals if they're not playing the Browns.
Exactly. I root for the Bengals. I've the Steelers even. They're just old days. Steelers.
Yeah.
They've had some great players I love to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But no, I just wanted to kind of get you on. You and I had some conversations. You came into Madison Street, you and your wife, and we had some conversations about. I shared a video recently. I kind of did some connecting of dots in my head that I hadn't done before, and I saw a video of Brian Regan, a stand-up comedian and famous guy. And I mean, I've seen his stand-up for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was a fan. I didn't even know I was a fan. I was like watching this guy and they did an NFL film segment on him. It was a short segment, about 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. But it was really cool. And I shared it, and you happened to comment and say, then you messaged me and said, hey, I did some play-by-play with Brian Regan.
Yeah. That's back in the probably late 70s, I'm guessing.
That's really cool. What is he like? Like, what kind of guy is he? Like, when you had your experience with him, I mean, obviously you probably keep in touch with him.
We didn't talk that much. We got along fine. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
But he was 19, and I was a different generation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I can't say that we were close friends. But we spent 10 Saturday afternoons in a row together, and I liked him.
Yeah.
He had played for Heidelberg for 3 years, wide receiver.
Okay.
He said on that piece that he was only caught one pass, but I can remember several shots of him going down the sideline and taking off a pass.
Huh.
But then he was from Florida. Off season, he got hurt diving, and so he couldn't play football that senior year. SID at Heidelberg at the time was Jack DeLong. We were always, every year, we'd look for a color man for the broadcast.
Right.
And Jack said, "Why didn't try him?" And so we did. And he was great at it.
Really?
Yeah.
He seems like a natural. Seems like a kind of guy that would just kind of pick that kind of thing up and just run with it.
Yeah.
Especially color.
Yeah.
I mean, a comedian, he can add a lot of color to a broadcast.
And and then years after that, watching something called Caroline's Comedy Hour,
Yeah.
on cable TV. And there's this guy up there, and when I knew him, he had short hair. There's this guy up there, and he's kind of curly and stuff, and the perms were the style at the time. And he was very, very funny. He had me rolling. And a couple of times I believe he mentioned Toledo, and he mentioned Miami. And I'm thinking, really? And when he was done, I still didn't recognize him for sure. But when he was done, Caroline came out and says, let's have some applause for Brian Regan. I thought, oh, man. I had seen him do a commercial with Alan King. It was for Bic pens, I think, one time. That was a
That's
long,
pretty
long
cool.
time ago. That was cool.
You spent, I mean, what were you getting ready to say, Greg?
Yeah, we did have a YouTube comment here for Jack. Can you see it there now?
Yeah, Jack, Joseph Ornament wants to know, when did you begin broadcasting in Tiffin, and are you originally from Tiffin?
Yes, actually born in Bloomville, but I went to school, graduated from Columbian. Started working at WTTF in spring of '72.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd done my 3 years in the Army and came back and got out and sat around the house for a while. And Mom and Dad finally urged me to go get a job.
And radio was your calling then?
Yeah, I had. That's what I majored in at Bowling Green.
That's cool.
And I had worked a few summers. Well, one summer up at TTF, another summer at Emerine and Marion. So yeah, was what I wanted to be Walter Cronkite.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely have the voice for it. Let me tell you.
It's a little creaky now, but
It's the voice of gold, though. I'll tell you that much. You are definitely the voice of Seneca County. But no, I think that's, he says, the Bloomville Kagy's very good. He says, I knew Troy, your nephew, maybe?
No, he was, I know Troy a little bit. I knew his dad, although his dad's somewhat older than I am. There's two kind of branches of Kagy's over there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in one, he was from another, but their farms were real close.
Yeah.
So I know a bunch of that branch of Kagy's too.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you've had a long history in broadcasting. You started out at TTF 72. I think you finished up, 94 in your last year with TTF? And then you still were in broadcasting, just not in radio. You were doing some PA broadcasting.
Doing PA
announcing.
Did PA for Heidelberg, and that's how I got connected there.
So you just transitioned from doing play-by-play from Heidelberg into doing like your PA announcer for... you were TTF covers the Heidelberg games for football, so you were there to cover those, and then just turn that into a PA gig. I like it.
Yeah. Well, in fact,
that's a nice retirement gig. When I'm ready and I'm ready to be done with broadcasting, I think that'd be the nice cush gig is to say, all right, I'll be the PA announcer.
You walk in, you do it, you have fun doing it, and then you go home. You don't have to set up equipment.
You don't have to set up anything, tear down. Yeah. Hey, that sounds like a pretty good gig, don't you think, Greg?
For sure. Joseph did have another comment here.
Yeah, he said, you must have broadcast my games at Calvert. He said, football and basketball before I left Tiffin for Princeton to play sports.
Oh, nice.
Joseph Warnament.
Nice.
Oh. Okay, yeah. I remember the name.
Yeah. Oh, Warnament's that's a Calvert name for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, was he, I don't know if you can, I wonder whether he was in that team that went to the state championship, beat Newark Catholic.
Yeah.
Let's see if he responds here. He said he's listening to us from San Francisco, and it's great to hear your voice again.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's good.
But no, you've done quite a bit. I mean, Brian Regan was just one of the guys that you've sat alongside. I mean, talk about some of your other experiences. Who's some of the other people you shared the booth with?
Well, Jake Moyer, we did a lot of time with him.
He's still doing it.
Yeah.
He's still kicking. We actually just seen him the other night. We were at the Columbian game.
Yeah.
Him and Ken Egbert were doing radio broadcasting for TTF.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
And Ken Carman, he did it for Columbian games anyway for a season.
Yep.
Gosh, I hate to list them because I'm going to forget some.
Oh, that's all right.
But,
No worries. Hey,
yeah.
nobody should take offense to that. I'm just saying, like, I know John Buccigross. You spent time with him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's still doing some stuff for ESPN.
He does a little sports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
little sports stuff, here and there.
Yeah. He, back when I retired, and he and I didn't, we got along fine, but we didn't stay connected after he left and went up to ESPN. But when I retired, I suppose it was out on Facebook or something like that I did that. And he caught up with that. And I don't think he said it on the air, but I did see a post on the bird thing, Twitter.
The bird thing. Yeah.
Bird thing.
I don't twit.
Yeah. But he said, my old acquaintance, Jack Kagy, has retired. First paid job in radio at Heidelberg Broadcasting was doing color with him for Heidelberg football.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That was neat. Yeah.
So, that's something that you can kind of, hold in high. Obviously you are distinguished. You have your own, story to tell when you're done, but to be able to tell stories like that,
yeah,
the people that you meet along the way, I think that makes the job, that makes the story that much better.
And I don't hide from reflected limelight.
Yeah, absolutely. You shouldn't.
We did get a response to the question here.
He says, no, he says that was 1 to 2 years after me. However, we were the great class who won the SBC every year from 77 to 79.
Okay.
Said he went on to play as a free agent for Tampa for 1 year after Princeton.
Oh, cool.
So we turned Calvert football around and set the course with Kirkhart, Breidinger, and Zerger as the turnaround coaches.
Yeah.
Ah,
I remember those years.
those were some distinguished years in Calvert history there.
Yeah. I always thought Newark Catholic back then was the powerful small school in the state. They'd go to the state championship every year. The 1 year, Calvert met them in the semifinals at the Strom Field in Mansfield.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they they were scoreless, and it got down to just a few minutes left. Calvert had the ball. They were down close. They were going to kick a field goal. The snap was bad. Tom Zerger, I believe it was the holder. He picked it up and passed it into the end zone as time ran out. And I wish I could remember the name of the kid who caught it.
Wow.
But anyway, so they knocked off Newark Catholic.
That's a story right there.
And then the following season.
No, that would have been a highlight.
Yeah.
ESPN top 10 right there.
Yeah. I remember, I was always very calm and collected and undertoned when I did sport. People used to complain, get excited. You get excited.
We got a couple of more comments here.
We got Gary Ross on here. Gary's one of our big fans here. He says, Jack, I'm old school. Come back, Jack. Great voice and never overtalk the game. Never about you. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Joe Warnament says, I came back for the Newark Catholic Championship game and brought 3 sets of turf shoes with me for a couple of the guys who had never played on turf before. That was in the Rubber Bowl.
Yeah. I remember that one. And that was the following year. Calvert won with a field goal, 3-0.
Wow.
So Newark Catholic has never scored a point
against Tiffin Catholic.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was good.
So there you go. I can hold that feather on my cousin who's from Newark. I can say, you know what? You never scored a point on Tiffin Calvert. So what's some other games that really stood out in your memory that you've called over the years? There's been some. There had to have been some doozies.
Yeah.
Maybe some teams that stood out to you.
Well, there was the Heidelberg season. They went into the playoffs, made the D3 playoffs.
Yep.
Got beat by Wilmington. But
Now, your
that was
first year with TTF, they won the Stag Bowl, correct?
yes, that's right. Yeah.
So you were at Heidelberg then, correct? You were just
I was at TTF.
graduated.
I had just started there, and so I was still doing a double T roundup. I wanted to get into the news, so I was doing that part time. Well, then Heidelberg made the Stag Bowl. Paul Kaufman, who was the sports director at the time, wanted to. Of course, they wanted him to do the game, or
Yeah.
TTF did, and sponsors around here. Well, turns out that there was a station down in Alabama that had the rights to do the game, but they had Paul come down and do Heidelberg color.
Wow.
So he was
That's
out of
cool.
town for a few days, and I had to do the news, and so that was my connection with the Stag Bowl team. But
That's really cool.
it was neat. Yeah.
That's really cool. So, I mean, you were still, pretty young in your broadcast days, pretty young. I mean, did you kind of identify with that team at all? Did you know any guys on that team? I mean,
I knew some names, but no, I didn't really know
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
I was.
What are some other like championship teams? Obviously, you talked about the Calvert team. Any other teams in the area that you can think of that kind of come to mind when you think of like a championship, like a good team that sticks out to you?
Well, I remember Columbian. I don't remember the year at all. But they made a couple of rounds in the playoffs, and they hit the one Friday night they played. It was a beautiful night. It was late in the season, of course, but beautiful, warm night. And they won big time. Newman was the quarterback. Then the following Friday, they had to play somebody up at Sandusky.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that field.
Oh,
It's
talking
terrible.
about Strobel Field?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play.
It is. But it was snowing and freezing, and I happened to have a four-wheel drive Jeep at the time, so drove that up, and it was slippery all the way up. And we did the game, and the Columbian got beat, but that was quite an experience getting up there doing that game. And I think by the time it was over, it had warmed up and was an easy drive back.
That's Ohio, folks.
Yeah.
That is Ohio weather right there in a nutshell. You'll experience 4 seasons during a football season.
Yeah. During one night.
Maybe in one night. Yeah, absolutely.
Another interesting trip was with Bucegras. He didn't have a car, but we always would let the color guy do the driving so they could pay him mileage, a little more than what I was making, which wasn't a whole lot. But we were playing, I think had to be Muskingum.
The Muskies.
Played down there in an evening game. Well, we're coming back in the dark. It's raining. John's driving a friend's borrowed car. And we're heading along I-70 in the rain, and I'm dozing off. Pretty soon he's dozing off.
Oh, no.
And we went to the right and bumped into the huge tires on the semi and bounced back off. Neither one of us slept the rest of the trip back.
Yeah, well, I
We were wide awake. He still talks about that time he almost killed me.
white knuckled the whole way home. Oh, man. So, I mean, you talk about Bucegras. I mean, we talk a little bit about Brian Regan.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a couple more questions that popped up here, Nate.
So did you do the Galleon game when they set the record attendance, or they set the attendance record?
Yes, yeah, that was.
It was for the NOL, if you can remember.
Yeah, I remember that one now. It was full. Yeah, I know that.
And then Tommy wants to know, do you have a favorite venue or stadium that you've been to? Because you say you don't like Strobel Field. They've done some improvements there.
Yeah,
It's
I know
actually
they
pretty
have.
nice
Yeah.
now.
It used
But
to be like it seemed like I was a mile from the field there.
oh, it's
And
the press box is so far up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Other good places. Yeah, Mansfield was good.
Yeah.
Columbian press box was pretty darn good.
Yeah,
Once they-
we're spoiled. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
folks. We have got it made.
Yeah.
When you go to other places and you see what they have, and then you come back home, it always feels good to come back home
Yeah.
because they got some. Even the cooking, like they take good care of you here. You always have food when you
Yeah.
come to Columbian.
Yeah.
You always people always take care of you when you come here as a member of the press.
they welcome you.
Yes, you are
Some
very
places
welcome.
You go, they
You're
don't
not
welcome,
very
you.
welcome. Yeah. And even if you're a visiting team, you're welcome at Tiffin. Like that's
Yeah.
and they don't always extend the olive branch when you go to visiting teams.
Right. Yeah.
We've
Some of
learned
them-
that the hard way this year, haven't we, Greggy?
Yeah.
No, a couple of venues that really stand out to me that I think, maybe they're not the big, the classic venues, the well-known venues, but one of them that really stands out is, when we went to Lucas, Greg, did you remember going to Did you go to Lucas with us?
Yeah, I believe so.
My goodness, that one it's not
that
around
the-
here.
Was that the place that kept setting off fireworks at?
Yeah. Every time their team would score, they'd set off fireworks in the background. And it was the weirdest setup for us. But the setting was probably one of the coolest things I'd ever seen because the stadium itself was on a hill. And it was like you had to.
You parked and then had to go up a little walking path that was a hill.
Yeah.
All the way up to it was just the stadium and the track that was on this hill.
Yep. And that's the only thing that was up there was the stadium and the track. And even that was just leveled off enough to where they could fit one side of bleachers and a very small set of bleachers on the other side. And that was it. And really, it was probably one of the most unique settings I've ever been to for high school football. Now, one of the ones around here that stands out, every time we go to Hopewell Loudon, I feel like there's some kind of a crazy game that happens. Or Seneca East is another one. When we go to Seneca East, I feel like every time we go there, there's a crazy game.
I think we really have a lot of nice
Yeah.
stadiums around here because I'm even thinking about Mohawk. Even Mohawk, especially with the renovations they did this year, it's
Yes.
really nice and accommodating over there.
I just thought, they just made those renovations this past year, and their press box looks phenomenal now.
All right.
And they were very accommodating to us this year. Big shout out to Mohawk, actually, just this past week, yesterday. Very, very big shout out for the accommodations.
I got to thinking about some more. Kenyon, when Kenyon was in the OAC.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful little old stadium, but it's a great location, and it's such small college, tight knit.
that's cool.
That was really neat. And then, I'm trying to think of the one just east of Columbus. Bobby Ray Hall went there. And I can't think of it now. But
I know Heidelberg Stadium for me. I don't think it gets much better than that when it comes to just a natural setting for football.
oh yeah,
I think that is probably one of the most unique and beautiful places that you can play a game of football.
Now, if we're talking about any sports stadium, how about that Akron Rubber Duck Stadium this year? Nate?
Oh, that was a blast.
Woo!
We went there to call the Tiffin Calvert semifinal game. When they
Okay.
played Lincoln View. And that game, that stadium was phenomenal.
They put us in a suite.
They put us up in a suite for the game. We got a whole suite to ourselves, accommodating. They were so awesome. And literally, we had not only the suite to ourselves, but 10 seats in front of the suite that were
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, it gave you your own little section outside of the suite.
So we had probably our best camera view of the entire season.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was great. We caught every inch of the action. It was awesome.
yeah. I liked that stadium up there too. When I was up there with Calvert, was up at the top of the stadium, looked over the back and down on the track for the soapbox derby,
Oh, yeah.
which doesn't exist there now anymore, but
That's
it
cool.
was at the time.
That's awesome. So anything else? We talked about football, but your broadcast career spans more than just sports. What are some things that kind of stood out to you during your broadcast career that, maybe that you think of when you recall your time as a broadcaster?
Well, there was a time during a presidential campaign I got to do a quick interview with one of Jimmy Carter's boys.
That's cool.
I even got to question him about his father's intentions to grant amnesty to all the guys who'd gone to Canada instead of going to Vietnam.
Really?
And I let him.
Not afraid to ask
I'm
the
not
tough
afraid to
questions.
ask that one. Yeah,
I like that.
And I think he understood my response. Probably didn't tell Dad. If he did, Dad didn't care. So,
That's cool.
that was good. I do know, well, and we're back at sports again. And
Hey,
talked
that's
about
fine.
Mohawk.
I love talking about sports.
I had one Saturday where we had a Heidelberg game early afternoon, right at 1 o'clock or noon. That was followed by a TU game down on the Mohawk field. And then a Calvert game Saturday night. We're going to do all three of them.
Wow.
Yeah. We knew we might miss some of the TU game. No. Well, anyway, what I did was plan ahead, and I took a set of broadcast equipment down to Mohawk in the morning. And, of course, I get down there, press box is locked. Nobody around. So I had been down to Mohawk before. I went up and I tried the window. It was open.
Right.
So I opened the window, crawled in, set my stuff up, got back in the car, and kept going.
Can't say we've never done nothing like that before. Nope.
You got to do what you got to do when you got to get your stuff set up, man.
Yeah. So we did the Heidelberg game, drove down and did the TU game, and I knew it was coming back up. The intersection of 231 and 224 was going to be a long wait.
Yeah.
So I started up 231, cut over to probably 19, County Road 19, came up that way, missed the back up at 224 and 231, got down to the stadium, and we did a Calvert game. That was fun. I was proud of that.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
What about Otterbein? I got a couple guys here commenting about Otterbein
I
here.
think they were saying that's the stadium
That's-
east
yeah,
of Columbus.
that's right.
They were
Ah,
naming
yes.
it for him.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Thank you.
So, Jack, I really appreciate your time. I don't want to take too much of it. I mean, this is.
I was going to ask a simple little
Hey,
question.
Greggy, go ahead.
What would you say you miss most about your broadcasting career?
There you go. That's a good one. That's really good.
Miss most about what exactly?
Your broadcast career.
Oh,
Like, what was your favorite parts of it?
Gosh. I don't know. I think I miss the most not being on a first name basis with government people, coaches,
Yeah.
staff, stuff like that. Like I used to, anywhere I'd go.
Right.
So you had the
There was a
relationships.
friend there.
Yeah.
And not, at least an acquaintance that we were okay with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And that's something that I think kind of we take for granted, Greggy. I mean, that's everywhere we go, we're known. People know who we are. I mean, I get approached every single day now since we've started doing this by people. Hey, I love what you guys are doing. Just today at Madison's, I had, a older woman who approached me and said, I can't thank you enough. Mobility issues have affected me to where I can't make it to my grandson's games anymore. Mm-hmm. And you have given me the ability to be able to watch my grandson from my living room with my dogs, and I can sit home and be comfortable. I can't tell you enough how thankful we are for what you guys do. And it was just, it's a great feeling,
Yep.
Not just to be recognized, but to be thanked for what you do. That's really, it's a great thing. So yeah, I can definitely see where that would be something you would miss for sure.
And and I totally always appreciate the relationships we have with the coaches that take time out of their lives to do shows with us, and the guests we have on our shows, like you yourself, Jack. It's a great thing to have built these relationships with the community, and it's one of the best parts of this job that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy those too.
So when you were in the Army, I just got a couple more questions here, and then I'll let you go. But now, when you were in the Army, what did you really specialize in? Because you went to school for broadcasting, but what were you specializing in the Army? Were you doing
Signal Corps?
Yeah, it's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
You got to have that. You got to put that voice to work. They knew.
Yeah.
Because, hey, we got a job for you.
Yeah. I got drafted. Of course, that's a 2-year commitment, And then I gave up. I enlisted in for a third year. That way they would guarantee me a school I wanted.
Yeah.
Guaranteeing me an assignment. I could have still wound up in the boonies.
Yeah.
But so I went to signal school at Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, and went over to Nam and was on a mountaintop in the Central Highlands for a year. Most exciting year of my life, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, but and it's a beautiful country.
Learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
When you're all the way out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a little excitement. That was...
Joe Warneman says, Jack, you were the Walter Cronkite of play-by-play sports.
I appreciate that a lot.
And Gary Ross says, friendship is pretty easy in Seneca County. We're a blessed county. He says, thanks, Jack, for coming on. And
I remember Gary. Yep.
yeah. He's a longtime fan. And once again, I'm a longtime fan of yours. I've listened to a few of your broadcasts. I went back and listened when I worked for WTTF because they mentioned you as the original voice of Seneca County. And I'd been called that before. Yeah. Somebody has called me that before. And I said, no. There's only one of those. You can call me something else. You come up with a different name for me, but that's not, this is the voice of Seneca County right here. This is the guy. And I had to go back and listen, and I'm like, that's why they call him the voice, because he's got the golden pipes, man, I'll tell you.
Do you think if called upon, you'd still have one more in the tank?
Still have what?
Still have one more in the tank if you were called upon?
Oh, gosh. I'm not sure.
If all you had to do is show up and put a headset on.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I was telling you earlier, my voice just doesn't hold up anymore.
Yeah.
You sound pretty good tonight, man.
That's just a half-hour program here,
right.
you know.
I'm just giving you some credit.
And
he's not having to carry a broadcast, you know. So
yeah,
I can understand that for sure.
Yeah, it's a muscle that you got to keep exercised, and if you don't, it's going to go soft on you.
Absolutely, for sure. I try to keep mine exercised daily, for sure.
Well, yeah.
It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate your time, Jack.
Me too. I enjoyed this. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Ever since we booked this, and when we booked it, I'll be honest, I was not looking at my basketball schedule when I booked this. I'm like, Thursday. We never have basketball games on Thursday. We have 2 in a row, this Thursday and next Thursday. So what am I doing? But yeah, I'm very thankful that you were accommodating with the schedule change. And
I don't do anything else.
Yeah. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Jack Kagy, the original voice of Seneca County. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Greg, once again, thank you for everything that you do, man. Thanks for keeping us live. Greg Kinn, the master, the wizard, as we like to call him. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you've watched this far, please do us a favor, share the video. And if you're not subscribed, don't like the channel, if you're not liking the video, what are you doing with yourself? Come on, guys, help us out. Thank you so much. Once again, this has been Mullin It Over on Heart of Ohio Sports.